here we are with another very important topic, and that is line grid items. We have this index.html containing 12 items with the classes for each. Then we have this grid. We have 4 columns of 1 FR and 3 rows, 400 pixels each, as you can see. First thing we are covering here is justify items, and by default it is stretch. Similarly, we have this align items, and that is also stretch by default. If you save this, there will be no change happening whatsoever. And what this stretch does is it will cover all the column in the x-axis and all the column spot in the y-axis. Justify is related to the x and align is related to the y. If I change this into center, we will have item equal to content width centrally aligned on x-axis. As we are aligning it to center, there will be no stretching from left to right of the column, but only the center that has this content. So if we save this, there you go, we have this. And if we do the same thing for this as a center, it will cover only the content. If we save this, there you go, we have this. So that's the very basic for the justify item and align items. We can do something different here. We can say I want this to be at the start, save it, and there you go, we have this at the start. And similarly, we can say here is I want this to be at the end. So what this will does, it will place our item at the left bottom. So let's save this, and there you go, we have the required result. So this is justify items and align items. Now we will discuss justify content and align content. So let's do this. So for that, we will have to do some change here. We will say height. There should be some height to do that. We will say 600 pixels, and I want here is comment out this rows, and I want this to be default as we have. And the other thing I will do here is I will say I want my column to be 100 pixels, and let's save this. We have defined the height, and then we have this 100 pixels column, and here we have this grid that is covering 600 pixels. So now I will say that I want my content to be in the center on the x-axis, and for that I will use justify content, and then I will say center, and it will align our content to center. And let's see this. There you go, we have this in the center. And the other thing I will want here is I would say that my align content to be in the center as well. And what this will does, it will align our content to the center. Here you can see this. Or we can say that I want my content to be equally spaced in between. So how we can do this? By simply saying I want this to be in space between, and save this. We are getting equal space in between for the x-axis as we are using justify content, and for the y-axis we will say it here space between, and save this. There you go, we have equal space between in the rows, and we have equal space in between in the columns. Similarly, we can use space around. It will also provide some space at the start and at the end. Similarly for our align content, save this. There you go, we have this space at the start and space in the end. Lastly, we will discuss justify self and align self. So let's comment out these ones and uncheck this one, remove this one, and I would say again that I want here is 1 FR, and save this. There you go, we are back at it, and here I will add properties for the self, and that we will apply on any of the item. So we can say I6, that is the class for this item 6. Here you can see this. And if I say that I want justify self to be stretch, and the other one is align self to be stretch, there won't be any change for the item 6 because it is by default. Every item has these properties. So if we want to change this, we can say that I want for this item to be justify self to be in center. Then we will have this. We are applying this property only to the item 6. Similarly, we can say it here that I want this to be in the center as well, and there we go, we have this in the center. Or we can say this, I want this at the start for the justify self, and align self I want it to be in the end. So you can use these properties of justify items, content, self to align items in your grid, and it's very easy.